We are now live. So, you just have a head cold?
Yeah.
It's just a head cold? You don't have, like, you don't need bourbon to burn it off or anything like that?
No, you actually know what happened.
What happened?
I have not been exposed to the youths.
Oh, well, see,
in a long time.
Do you want to hang out in a...
No, I'm talking about elementary school.
Oh.
And so now that I'm coaching the youths, on Monday, I was with them. And yeah,
you're getting wrecked.
Immediately. I was like, oh, yeah, I forgot that when your kids, go to like kindergarten, first grade, second grade, they all come back and they get used to it. Then you get used to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not the case.
Yeah, I'm forging the fires of youth hockey travel at this point, so my immune system should be good. All right. Let's podcast alongside Joe Giglio. I'm Joe Ovies. We are inside Eford Studios. Thanks to Empire Properties. Thanks to Copiers Plus. But it is Thursday. It is just past 2:00. That means it's time for another OG Live brought to you by the Butcher's Market. Check them out at their various locations across the triangle. Don't forget about Wilmington. We see you, Wilmington. You got hot dogs down there too. Joe is going to build a sandcastle with all the hot dogs this summer.
I could.
Do like a log cabin of hot dogs.
Well, I guess they are in my freezer now.
Well, you're
I'm
good,
gonna say
man.
I'm working through them though, man. It's like a challenge.
What are your sodium levels right now?
Probably not great.
Probably not great.
You know what it is though? James.
Yeah.
That's like his number one favorite thing.
Oh, okay. That makes
hot
sense.
dogs. So when he was home and his crew was here, and I was thinking we'd, the tailgate, etc.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great problem to have.
You're right. And honestly, I'm talking about sodium. The higher sodium levels are probably coming from NC State fans right now. And to a certain extent, Carolina Hurricane fans as well. And of course, we had the Tar Heels in action last night. So we had the weird national game thing for the Carolina Hurricanes and the Buffalo Sabres, which we'll get to. So they started off at 6:00. Watch that first period.
Yeah, why was that game at 6?
National game doubleheader. So they started that one at 6 so they can get to the second one later or at a decent time, So watch the first bit of that. Flipped it over to the Carolina Cal game because I just kind of I want to see where Carolina's at, where they're at right now, I should say. Just kind of stacking these wins. I'm old enough now to know that Stojakovic has a kid. Like this is like a twofold thing, right? So not only do you got Page's kid playing for Cal, but also Mark Madsen, he of Los Ramos and then you give you this, from his Lakers championship days. He was a Jim Rome bit for years with that sound clip. So I'm just having a really hard time processing. Oh, and our guy Jack, photographer, sent us, hey, the last time Cal played at the Smith Center,
yeah,
and it was a Vince Carter dunk.
Yeah.
So it's been a while. What is time, right? So I wanted to watch the Tar Heels for a little bit. The Tar Heels kind of put that game away. So let me flip it back over to the Hurricanes. Well, the Hurricanes are messing the bed a little bit. So all right, let me see what's going on with NC State. Now at this point, because I'm old and I'm tired from the night before, I have that uncanny ability to zonk out on the couch, but then be awake for the pivotal thing I need to see. So when I flipped it over to the NC State game, State's up. I think they were up 7 with about 3 to go, if I remember correctly.
They were up 14 at one point in the second half.
Yeah. Okay. So I kind of zonk out, but then I wake up. Who do I see? Jaden Shutt at the line. Where is that guy? Oh, that's right. I forgot. Duke guy, no longer at Duke. He's now at Virginia Tech. He hits the free throws. State's got a chance to inbound the ball with 2.8 seconds left, right? And it's a kind of a weak pass. It gets stolen and then it gets dunked emphatically. And NC State continues their streak of not having any road wins this year. No ice cream for the Wolfpack so far this year.
Yeah, well, Ball State was up, so you missed a little bit.
Like I said, I kind of zonked out for a little bit.
That's fine. State had a 1-point lead. Clean look from Jaden Taylor. Misses it. VT comes down. Shutt had been like crazy hot.
Mm-hmm.
Brought him back into the game after them being down double digits in the second half. He has a clean look, but he missed it by like 10 miles. It was like a hilariously awful miss. But it was one of those hilariously awful misses that turns into a very long rebound that no one on NC State can grab. Shutt ends up grabbing the ball. He was fouled. I know Kevin wasn't happy about the call, but it was a loose ball foul, 2.3 seconds left. And I'll point out the obvious here. Probably don't want a white shooter at the line with 2.3 seconds left on the free throw line. Probably not. Probably not a thing you want.
No.
Unless it's our guy, McNeely. And there's more than 2.3 seconds left. So Shutt makes them both.
Yeah.
And of course the Keats Army comes out with the Keats Hate Army comes out because he called a timeout in between free throws. And even the announcer, who I think was Anish, had said, well, that's weird. Why did he call a timeout? Why did he call his last timeout before knowing what he needed? And the color guy was like, well, because he's trying to ice him, which he obviously did not work.
No.
And then the play, whatever play was drawn up, got lost in translation because it was intercepted.
There seems to be a lot of that.
Dunked.
I was not keen on that pass. I'm
going to tell you where my brain was, though.
Yeah.
I initially thought the line for this game, I knew the line for this game was -1.5. State, though, was favored by -1.5. We just saw a game this week in Greenville where one of the most disgusting total bets came in after ECU threw a basket in with less than a second left.
Yeah.
If it had been Virginia Tech -1.5 and they covered on that dunk, like I mean, I can't say it on this program, but bet responsibly. Let's put it that way.
Bet responsibly.
Bet
yes.
responsibly.
Bet responsibly.
Please.
919-444-2211. Call the OG Sports phone and curse or don't.
I believe the exact line from friend of the program, LK, was they deserve to get dunked on like that at the end.
Oh, after whittling away the win,
yes,
the way that they had, and play the sports phone, because what I'm about to tell you is both Virginia Tech and Virginia are god awful, and now NC State has losses to both.
To both of them. All right, from a 919.
I appreciate that you guys have a therapy option for NC State basketball fans. This season has become laughable, and it's hilarious somehow to be at this point in the season, 1-point possession games, you're up by 15, you lose by 3. It's actually funny at this point.
What can you do other than laugh? If you're into gallows humor, NC State's certainly there for you. From a 336, just realized State has not won a game away from Lenovo Center all season. Can the ACC tournament be played in Raleigh? Please. Finally bring it back to Reynolds, right? But that actually gets us to another sports phone call. This comes to us from 252.
Also, just to remind everyone of one thing. What happened last year with NC State, there's a chance it can't even come to pass this coming year because we have to make the ACC tournament. So us even making the ACC tournament, since only 15 of the 18 teams get in now, we might not even make the ACC tournament. Imagine that. Winning the ACC tournament, going to the Final Four, and then not making the ACC tournament. It's unbelievable.
Look, I'll be honest with you, as I was sifting through sports phone calls, and we have a lot of them, and it'll be a focal point of the free portion of the OG mailbag tomorrow. I had not considered that until I heard that phone call. And I also got a text to the OG sports phone that we are facing the possibility that my joke that NC State's season doesn't start until March 11th, that Tuesday in Charlotte, the joke actually doesn't work because I'm still operating under the assumption that everybody gets to play in the ACC tournament. No. With the additions of Cal, Stanford, and SMU, they're only bringing 15 out of the 18. And that is certainly in play for the Wolfpack at this point in time.
Yeah, they're 2-4 on the year. Fortunately for them, Miami is a total train wreck.
So they got that going for them.
But yeah, they're only a game clear of Virginia, Cal, and BC. BC is not very good either.
No. But
last night was bad. It was just bad. I mean, they're up. They played really well for a pretty good stretch. Virginia Tech's not a good basketball team. And I mean, it was just, they had about 4 different chances to put them away and couldn't. And that's where your brain starts leaking on you a little bit.
Well, I think that's if we're going to be somewhat serious about where NC State is right now, and there's the pessimistic aspect of it, and then there's the as optimistic as you can be, right? And this is not about how they just kind of magically put it all together. The construction of the team right now does not strike you as something that can just kind of get on a run and things like that. They got some serious issues right now. But I would say that if NC State is pretty much a middle-of-the-road ACC team, and you find yourself in these end-of-game situations, these are things you can clean up. These are things you can clean up, especially at this point in the year. The issue becomes, for NC State, to continue to make the tournament. All right? I know that's a thing. It's a year-to-year proposition. I know there have been instances where teams make the tournament, or in the case of NC State, they make the Final Four. Carolina's done that. Miami's done that, as you've pointed out. But those are things that fans don't want to hear. Fans want to see this program going in some sort of direction rather than this weird blip and then going right back to where it was before said blip. So you're supposed to take that Final Four run, take the ACC championship, take the Final Four run, use it to catapult you into a more sustainable type of trajectory or something. But obviously, that's not the case this year. But the best thing you can say, even though this team doesn't look like they can put teams away or their end-of-game situations can be drawn up any way that Kevin Keatts wants, you still have to execute them, right? Because we saw that execution last year. I don't want to keep going back to last year in the sense that, like, trying to defend Keatts in a certain way, but sometimes, we know what Keatts does. Like, there's nothing new about Keatts. There's no surprises about Keatts. We know what he's trying to do. The question is, can the players go out and do what he wants to do? And if they don't consistently do that, well, then why do they find themselves in those situations with players that cannot consistently execute the kind of plan that he wants? So, because we remember at the beginning of the year, the optimism was that this seems to be the kind of team that Keatts has been wanting at NC State, right? Yeah. Was that not the talking point?
Yeah.
Well, clearly that's not the case now. But hey, you know what? NC State, you were talking about bad beats and all that stuff and the possibility of NC State not making the ACC tournament. You could be the Carolina Hurricanes, right? Carolina Hurricanes are starting to piss people off too. And last night was not a great night for the Carolina Hurricanes, who keep seemingly playing down to the level of their competition.
919-444-2211. Call the OG Sports phone and curse or don't.
From a 919.
I'm getting real sick of these Hurricanes, man. I'm starting to feel like I understand how Toronto Maple Leafs fans feel. I'm wondering at this point if it's less of a strategy X's and O's issue, or if it's less of a personnel skill issue. Why we're so inconsistent. I feel like we need to have an asshole out there. We need to have a Brad Marchand, a Nikita Kucherov, someone out there, a Brady Tkachuk, or Matthew Tkachuk. Just go out there and start shit and make it uncomfortable to go play with them. I think Martinook has that dog in him. I think Svechnikov has that dog in him. Is there any value to making them go loose a little more? Or maybe I'm just making stuff up and grasping at straws. Let me know.
There might be a little bit of grasping at straws. But yeah, making matters worse and the frustration. I got a text from a buddy of mine that it's like, yes, this team is really starting to tick me off. And now they have the distinction, and I saw this floating around last night, for the Buffalo Sabres. First team to score a goal in a full 20-minute period without registering a shot on goal since data became available in the 1965-1966 season, January 15th, 2025. If you're Buffalo, you haven't really had a lot to celebrate. So if they wanted to put that banner for real up in Buffalo, hey, man, you go do that. But yes, it was a weird situation last night where I think it was empty net situation. It was 3-2, empty net situation. Initial shot went off the post. It was McLeod who tried to bury it, but the stick snapped. And in the process of the stick snapping, he whiffed on the shot. But Brent Burns, who was diving to try to make sure the goal did not happen, that the puck didn't go in, ends up tripping him. That would have flagged for a penalty shot, but because it's an empty net situation, that is an automatic goal. So no actual shot attempt occurred because he whiffed along with the Brent Burns. What would have been a penalty shot gets automatically awarded as a goal. That's my understanding. And apparently this has happened before, like in the 80s, but they happened in overtime. So this is the first time it's happened in a full 20-minute period. So well done, Canes. Well done.
Well, there's two separate Carolina Hurricanes conversations.
Yes.
Okay. Number one is you could be whatever you want in between games, and they have been inconsistent.
They have.
There's no doubt about that.
They have been.
But they have 55 points. They're pretty comfortably in the playoffs right now. This is a team that, you said the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Toronto Maple Leafs are like Toronto and Edmonton are the two most talented teams in the league.
Yes.
So no, you don't know how the Toronto Maple Leafs feel. Number one, that way they're a completely different roster. Number two, they haven't so much as been to the Stanley Cup Finals before I was born, and I turned 50 this year. Their last time they won it was 67. Okay, so no, you don't know how the Toronto Maple Leafs feel. All right, let's just parse those words and get that out of the way. Unless you're specifically saying, and this is the second part of the Canes, and this is the part where they have to fix, because I feel like the Canes are moving this thing along at a sense of they're trying to get through it because they understand better than we do that it's an 82 game schedule. As Ron Francis loves to tell us, you can't get too high, can't get too low.
That's right.
Okay. The Carolina Hurricanes are not going to win the Stanley Cup with Tadarsky and Kochetkov. That's not going to happen. If Freddie Anderson comes back, are they going to win it with him? Well, history says no, but that's their best shot right now.
That would be the irony, though.
So they need, there you're the former Leaf. So that's where the Hurricanes are. I think they're trying to tread water, which is basically what they're doing, winning 1-2 here, losing 1-2 there. Now, losing Anaheim and Buffalo is obviously less than something that you'd want, but they're still professional teams.
So here's the thing about the Canes. I think what we're kind of finding out right now, I'm with you. They're decidedly in the playoffs. They're going to make the playoffs. I think people are adjusting to the fact that they had this window and they're gripping a little tight because they had a window, didn't cash in, and you've got a team that is not as good as those previous teams, and you're wondering, well, where is this all going to go, right? You know what? It's all about raising the floor for the Carolina Hurricanes. And if the raised floor is you went from a cup window that you didn't cash in, but you're still making the playoffs rather than missing the playoffs, you take that every single time. That's number one. Number two, I think in a weird sort of way, this is a good thing. I think we're actually kind of finding out what the deal is with Kochetkov. As somebody who was all in on going with the Russian, I think we're kind of finding out that, you know what, maybe he's not it. I'm not saying he's been terrible. I'm not saying he's the reason why they are where they are. I'm simply saying there's enough of a variance with Kochetkov that maybe he isn't it. Maybe he isn't it. And
you're learning is what you're saying.
Yes, and that's something that is good for the Carolina Hurricanes. And that actually also gets to the irony of it all, in that Freddie comes back and watch him actually lock in a way that, hasn't before. Who knows? All I'm getting at is there's another issue with the Carolina Hurricanes too, and like the Maple Leaf stuff that you reference. I need to get into the psyche of Carolina Hurricanes fans that I don't quite understand, in that why everybody's gripping it so fucking tight
this year.
It
does seem to be a this year.
Why are you gripping it so tight? Is it because you're worried that you're going to go back to the decade of darkness? No. You don't have the same ownership. Rod Brind'Amour is the head coach. It is not the same franchise. So you have to get out of the back of your mind, well, man, I don't want to go back to that. Just because you're what are they now? 5-3 and when their last 10, what are they? They're 5-3-2 in their last 10. It's not terrible, for heaven's sake. So it is a question that I wish we could explore a little bit more. Maybe we can. I am curious as to why Canes fans seem to be, at least online, gripping so damn tight when it comes to every little bit of win or a loss. When they lose, it's, this team they don't have it. Something's missing. Rod, they win. They're like, okay, boys, they look like they gave effort. To me, they look like they give the same effort every damn night. Sometimes the shots go in. Sometimes the shots don't go in. Sometimes it's as simple as that. Housekeeping is brought to you by Enovana. Check them out online at enovana.com. Green Cleaning Solutions.
If you have
We've got an event taking place at Sully's Golf and Gather. One quick thing I wanted to clear up for some folks. If you want to participate in the long drive and the closest to pin at Sully's Golf and Gather in Garner, it is $15 to enter.
Yeah.
If you just want to come and hang out and drink, come out, hang out, and drink.
Yeah.
Because I actually had a question like, what if I don't golf, but I want to hang?
Yeah.
And he's like, just drop on by and say what's up. I go, yes, by all means.
You'd be surprised how much space is there. This is not like one of those like closet places on the side of the road. It's
a serious spot.
It's a beautiful facility.
But if you want to get your competitive juices flowing, and
you do.
Joe's juices flow all the time when it comes to this. That's when the $15 entry comes into play.
I mean, they're going to have to kick me out because Brad will hit one shot. Brad Frisch, former PGA Tour player, is going to hit one shot.
Yeah.
And you will literally see me there for the rest of the night trying to better his shot. That will be how the day goes. I promise you.
So that's on February 5th. Email Joe, giglio.joe@gmail.com or theoggoesdigital@gmail.com if you're interested in joining us at Sully's February 5th. $15. If you want to play, if you just want to hang out and drink, by all means, because that's probably what I'll be doing. Nah, I'm kidding. I'll play.
You got to bring
I'll bring the 13
the
wood.
lefty.
I'll bring the left 13 wood and the 9 wood just to keep things spicy. Speaking of spicy, it's going to be a good time at the Rialto with Bomani Jones. So go check us out at therialto.com. The basketball Jones will be at the Rialto. Tyler Hansbrough is going to be in the house. Marcus Ginyard. We're going to have Lavelle Moten from Central there too. Scott Wood locked in? Maybe. Have we got the high school basketball schedule figured out?
They don't play that day, but they still practice. So it's just a matter of
get his ass out there.
I wonder if the coach controls the practice time. It's high school though, so that it's not like
I know. We'll see. Mosquito Authority, Pest Authority, corporate champion from the jump. Go check them out. Bugsbite.com. Get the outside of your house taken care of and the inside of your house taken care of. Bundle and save at Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority at bugsbite.com. Big thanks to Nature's Relief. You can check them out online at naturesreliefhempstore.com, RELEAF hempstore.com. Everything from just pre-rolls, gummies, alcohol alternatives, better night's sleep, all that's there at Nature's Relief. So go check them out. And of course, our friends at Two Roosters. Check them out online, tworoosters.com. Maybe we should just send NC State to simulate, get things going, maybe unclog it, send them to Two Roosters to have ice cream after a practice.
Jared is trying.
You're just saying.
He's trying his best.
Because they have ice cream on the road.
Because our friend Steve texted me after he was there last. Chung and Steve sitting right behind the state bench. And I'm like, what? You two are.
They're sickos, man.
They really are.
They're just pure sickos. So go to tworoosters.com, check out their flavors. And I don't know, maybe just will a road win for the Wolfpack. Joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline from WFNZ. He does afternoons. In fact, he's on the air in about 35 minutes. He is Kyle Bailey. Kyle, what's going on, man?
What's up, boys? Good to be back.
Good. So here's my thing, man. Panthers, they end the season on a high note. So now we have to do the who gets credit for said high note. That's what we have, the post-mortem. So the question is, how did Bryce Young get his groove back? And who is responsible for bringing out the dance at the end of those games?
CBD gummies and whoever your sponsor was there a minute ago.
It's really that's what it's all about.
No, Bryce gets most of the credit, right? You and I talked about this the other day. Bryce gets most of the credit. He did most of the hard work. He had to execute and make those plays and make those throws. And, I think that Dave Canales likewise deserves a lot of credit. There's a great piece out from Joe Person right now. We're over at The Athletic where he spoke to a lot of folks about what was going on behind the scenes, at practice in the locker room. And so, boy, it was a hell of a ride this year, up and down and, stories all over the place and wondering where this was all headed. And, now we kind of have our answer. And I think as the dust has settled here, to answer your question again, more specifically, Bryce gets most of the credit, but I do really appreciate some of what Dave Canales did, even if it wasn't always pretty or perfect or stated the best way, to help Bryce kind of get through all this. So hopefully what we're looking at is a marriage of two guys that can stick together and win a bunch of ball games for a while.
Yeah, I'm curious as to how the Panthers are going to approach this offseason. But before we get to that, I read the Joe Person piece. It's very well put together. But there's one sticking point that has bothered me in the Joe Person piece, not because of Joe, but just in how these things are presented. I know, Giglio, you caught this in one of the broadcasts about the plan. There's plan for Bryce Young. And we're
going to bench him and let him look at it.
And in the person piece, there was a reference to the plan, but when asked for further details on the plan, both Dave Canales and Dan Morgan weren't really forthcoming on what the details of that plan are, which is weird to me because if it worked, why wouldn't you want to let us know about all of this process? And you go back, Kyle, I know you and I have talked about this, but when you go back and you listen to Dave Canales' press conferences, his own words, you never really got the sense that they were going to go back to him anytime soon. And he gives us the best chance to win. You've got using Bryce Young as a meat shield in mop-up duty in Chicago. I don't know how that fit into the plan. So I am curious what your interpretation is as it relates to the plan with Bryce Young and how we got here.
I think you can find elements of the plan in the way that Dave Canales talked when he first got here about his philosophies and what they preach and tying footwork to everything that they do. And a lot of that's in the piece that we're referencing here. Yeah. And look, the truth is he played like a top 6 quarterback in the league, according to PFF, in the final 10 weeks of the season. So, when it looks like that, especially down the stretch, of course it looks like a successful plan, right? But throughout it, I'm sure there were doubts and things that they weren't sure that were going to work or that they did correctly. As far as sharing it, I don't know. Football is the most secretive, proprietary sport there is. Nobody wants to share anything with anybody. So, maybe there's an element of that too. And Dan Morgan simply doesn't tell you much. So, that's just kind of who he is too.
Fair.
He doesn't say much. There's just not much there. But I do recall, like you and I were talking off the air the other day. I was in the locker room after the Chargers game. It was palpable that day. There were veterans that you could tell they wanted him benched, and not because they hated it, because they wanted to win football games and they felt like they had an improved roster, and especially on the offensive side. And then a week later, I was in the locker room in Las Vegas after Andy led them to a win over the Raiders, and it was one of the most joyous locker rooms I've ever been a part of. So you could see the difference there was night and day. I don't know about the plan. I do think that much of the front office believed still that Bryce was the guy that they drafted, but I think the confidence there was waning a little bit, and he went out there and in the final 10 weeks of the season and proved to everybody that he can play. So, it looks better in hindsight, and you can say we had a plan, and you probably did, but, you're lucky that plan worked out because even, the best laid plans, as we all know, don't always work out in sports or life.
Because that's the thing, to wrap up the point on Bryce Young and how he got here, how would have this is the great question, how things would have gone if Andy Dalton never gets in the car accident?
Yeah, we were talking about that, of course, then. And, my thought was, okay, it became obvious this defense with all the injuries, already not super talented or deep, was going to give up a lot of points. And they were not going to win a lot of games, even if Andy was running the offense better. Yeah. And so you felt like, okay, you have to go back to him at least one more time to do your due diligence, to feel like you have given yourself closure on this. And I recall, Ian Eagle and Charles Davis calling a game, and I remember Charles Davis saying the same thing, that, hey, you're probably going to want to go back to this kid somewhere around week 12, week 13. Give him the final 4 or 5 game stretch to show what he's got. And so I do believe that they would have gone back to him. I can't guarantee that or when. None of us can. But, man, the way that it worked out, you hate to see Andy get hurt because that guy was so excited. I mean, I go back to that locker room. Andy was so happy that day in Vegas and in the locker room doing his interview. Like, I got a lot of respect for Andy Dalton, and he's handled himself with so much grace. And I just couldn't think more of that guy as a professional. But, I think somebody was looking out for Bryce Young. And I don't know who it was, but somebody was looking out for Bryce Young to give him another opportunity, and he seized it.
What a nice spot for the Panthers to be in. They're not the worst anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You're not sitting here parsing through the trade anymore. You're not wondering if Bryce is at least your quarterback through his first contract. I mean, so you're going to avoid the Ryan Leaf, Jamarcus Russell conversation disaster.
Yeah.
I mean, I do not think the Panthers are magically going to be a playoff team next year, but man, they're a world better than they were last year. Like that. That's got to be good for your crew too, and your sanity as you get ready for an off season of Panthers coverage, as only the radio business can treat it.
Brother, I got here the last 2 years of Cam Newton, and the previous 5 years following that have been just different. This is the understatement of the century. But yeah, you're right. I mean, you get to the end of the season, and even at the start of the year with some renewed hope and a new coach and they were still 32nd in every power ranking. Yeah. And at the end of the year, NFL.com had them 18. Which is, kind of, it's crazy, but that's what finding your quarterback can do for you. And to your first point there, this is the first offseason since 2019 that they haven't been introducing a new general manager, a new head coach, or a new quarterback. It has been absolutely chaotic here in Charlotte for the last 5 years. First time since 2019. So, I mean, you're right in what you said, but I don't think you understood the full scope of that. It's so true. And now they can fix the defense. Now they have, I won't call it a luxury because they don't have their own second-round pick, even though they have a second-round pick that belongs to the Rams. They have a lot to do on the defensive side, but you do have kind of the luxury now of saying, okay, we fixed the offensive line. Bryce looks like he can play. Let's see if we can find him another top-tier wide receiver while we're fixing the defense and see what we can do in a division that really still isn't all that formidable. And so you're right. I don't think that I'm not going to get up here and predict 11 wins in 2025.
Yeah.
But based on what we saw, I do think people can reasonably go into next season believing they've got a chance to contend for the division.
And that's the other thing too, about all of this. And I wanted to kind of tie in the Deontay Johnson situation as a example of maybe fans and maybe even us as media need to like chill out from time to time. That's how these things play out. Right. Especially as it relates to Dan Morgan. And again, when the team's bad in a really, really bad place, every decision is going to be scrutinized. If there's not instant results, we're like, well, this isn't working either. And everybody gets mad. I get it. But Deontay Johnson is a prime example that I hope people learn lessons from, right? They make the trade to get him because obviously they're trying to get better in the wide receiver group.
Yeah.
They move on from him because it clearly something was going on behind the scenes that they were not comfortable with, and they just moved on quietly without much drama. I mean, it is what it is, all things considered. And when they made the trade, hey, man, I was listening that day. People were losing their shit.
Yep.
Absolutely losing their minds over what they got in return for it.
Get more?
Yeah.
And as Mike Kay, the Charlotte Observer, was just pounding the table on, I know you talked about it. It's like, well, consider what they got him for. We know what the market is for him. So what did you expect? Now, refresh my memory. How many more teams did Deontay Johnson go through?
Oh, I love this. So he last 7 games in Carolina. He goes to Baltimore, one of the best run organizations in all of football.
Yeah.
Can't stick there. Gets suspended because he refuses to go into the end of a game against Philadelphia. Gets suspended a game. They're tired of him. John Harbaugh can't even muster nice things to say. He's cut. Ends up in Houston with the Texans. He latches on to another playoff team. And then I know you know the story, but it still blows my mind that he's standing in the middle of a locker room where guys are smoking cigars and rightfully celebrating a playoff win in the NFL. And this guy's pouting and throwing a fit and needs to be consoled because he didn't get more targets in this playoff win. And so that tells you exactly what Dan Morgan and Dave Canales were dealing with.
Right.
And, in the aftermath, Joe, you're absolutely right. There are people killing him. I thought it was a little puzzling at first, but I very quickly realized, A, like you said, okay, let's remember what they got him for.
Mm-hmm.
But B, in talking to people, dude, they didn't know if he was going to show up to practice. They didn't know if he was going to show up to the weight room. They didn't know if he was going to show up to the training table.
That's crazy.
He pouted. He sulked. He threw a fit. If you go back to this, and it's water under the bridge now. But I really am starting to believe that he had a real negative impact on Bryce those first couple of weeks. Because if you'll recall, the very first offensive play of the year was a ball that he forced to Deontay Johnson that was picked off against New Orleans. And so I don't know that it was an openly spoken mandate that he had to get Deontay the ball a ton, but it was pretty well understood.
Yeah.
And so I just don't think that worked out either. And I think him getting out of here was one of the best things that could have happened for Bryce Young.
Yeah, and that ties to how things are going to go forward. Sometimes, again, it all comes from the context of where the Panthers have been here in the last couple of years. But at some point, you're going to have to trust the staff. You're going to have to trust your quarterback. And that's how we'll close this conversation, getting it back to Bryce Young and Dave Canales. I understand that Bryce, over the course of potentially 2 coaches, wasn't looking like the guy that they drafted or what they could work with. At the end, and I identified the Philadelphia game as the moment where it looked like Dave Canales finally trusted Bryce Young, that he was openly talking about how he helped him out. Like,
yeah,
I had this play call, it didn't work, but he bailed me out of it. And obviously we can fast forward to the end of the season where he was effusive over those types of things. Can we put that to the side now? Like, do we now know that can Canales actually not try to hide Bryce in the preseason? Can we not go back to that Denver game where it was, man, you really don't think that Bryce can do what you're asking him to do. That was an atrocious offensive game plan.
Yeah.
Like, can we actually, for once, have a quarterback and a coach that look like they're finally on the same page?
And I think that's what you have now. And I love that you brought up the Denver game because, I got some pushback on this, but I told people following that game and in the weeks following that game that I said, hey, it was ugly. But that was the first time where it looked like the game was slowing down for Bryce, where he wasn't bailing out of clean pockets so quickly. He wasn't seeing ghosts that weren't there. The plays didn't get made. But there were some throws that were on target, some missed opportunities. And so, a lot of us felt then, but you can't go crowing about that because they look terrible otherwise. So, then you get to the next couple of weeks and he's making more plays and they win a couple of games. And, in those games against the Giants and the Saints, you had game-winning drives, and that's really encouraging. But it felt like there was still a governor on the engine. They weren't going deep as much. They weren't taking those big opportunities. And by the end of the year, I believe I think I have the stat right. Bryce finished with the second most quote unquote big time throws in the NFL behind I think it was only Mahomes, if I'm not mistaken, and did that while missing 4 games. And so, yes, the playbook opened up and there's trust there. And I think that trust is here to stay. And that's where there's so much. Bro, you've known me for a long time. I don't want to talk about the draft in January. I'd rather talk about the playoff. I'm excited to talk about the draft, Joe. I can't wait.
I know what you want to talk about. You want to talk about your Hokies last night getting over on NC State.
Well, I missed the end of it. I gave up on the game. And then I went back and felt like an idiot. So I gave up. I walked away. I was putting the kids down for bed. I wanted to eat dinner. I was sick of it. And I turned it off and I checked the phone. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So yeah.
No, I know. Besides, WFNZ is very busy being your home for hip hop and R&B. What you had the baby in studio.
The baby in studio, yeah.
And then I guess
I go where I want.
Yeah. We were supposed to feature 2 musical acts potentially that day. Scott Avett of the Avett Brothers, huge Hornets fan. Scott will come on with me sometimes on the Hornets pregame show. So we had, it didn't work out that night, but Scott's back soon. I wanted to get him on for the Jazz. It was music themed, but
yeah. And then of course you have a ball brother who's the hottest. He's got the hottest track of 2025 so far.
Unbelievable. That's the other thing. We get fairly frequent LeVar Ball sightings here in this city, which makes for some pretty exciting times.
Panther legend LeVar Ball.
Yes, sir.
You can forget. Kyle Bailey, WFNZ. Hey man, we appreciate the time. We'll talk to you later.
Always enjoy it, fellas. Thank you.
All right, man. Take it easy. He's got actual live radio to worry about. We only do live once. Yeah, when I saw, I think the baby was on with Mac and Bo, and I was like, oh man, I wish I was in the room for that one. Jealous. Big thanks to Roback for being a corporate champion. Check them out. Roback.com. Use the promo code OG20 to save 20% off your order. You're getting dangerously close to the ACC tournament. And we've seen the future.
We have.
So
I'm ready.
I almost feel like we should hit them up. Is there a new promo code we can drop just for that? Just a consideration. Just a consideration. But in the meantime, go to Roback.com. Great hoodies, great quarter zips. And honestly, great gym shorts as well. Super comfortable. Their t-shirts are incredibly comfortable as well. Easy to work out in, which gets us to our friends over at O2 Fitness Clubs. As you know, it is more than just a gym. You never would have thought of going to the gym in January coming out of the holidays until we told you to.
We invented that.
We did. So go to o2fitnessclubs.com. But it goes beyond that. Location matters. They've got a bunch of great locations across the triangle to make it easy for you to get to O2 Fitness Clubs. But it goes beyond just great equipment and great people helping you out. You have Renew Physiotherapy, which will help Joe. I don't think they can help Joe with his sickness right now, but they can help with your neck.
Yes. Renew Physiotherapy, Loop Nutrition. Yeah, man. When we say it's more than a gym, it's more than just going over there and sweating it out. It's about getting yourself better.
In fact, when you go to any of the O2 Fitness Clubs or our friends at Happy and Hale, you will see the Loop Nutrition with a QR code, as Happy and Hale is a partner with Loop Nutrition to help you not just work out and feel better, not just with the new Renew Physiotherapy, but also to eat better, because it's a whole thing, man. It's not just one magic bullet. It's a whole thing to kind of change that lifestyle. And Happy and Hale makes it so that you can eat healthier while not sacrificing flavor, feeling full, those types of things. I was at Happy and Hale earlier this week. I got the Bueno Bowl with the quinoa this time. I would do that again.
It's a different choice.
I would do that again. So I enjoyed that.
Med Bowl for me, go-to.
Is that your usual go-to?
It's that mint that does it for me.
Oh,
with that yogurt dressing and the mint.
Gotcha.
It's just like a really nice combination. They do such a great job with their flavors.
It's good stuff.
They know what they're doing.
Download the app too. Makes it super easy to get in and out.
Yeah, you got.
I feel like I can come up with a new segment called Joe Giglio wants you to under freaking stand that Deion Sanders wants to coach his kids.
Yeah.
He wants to coach his kids. It's that simple.
Or I really want you to understand that I know what I'm talking about. Somebody the other day was questioning my knowledge.
Oh, really?
Oh, it was
all
from
the
the
time.
clip. I think it was a State fan. It was from the clip from the After Dark.
Oh.
And it was like, not everyone needs to have a podcast or whatever the comment was.
Yeah.
And I was just
delete
like,
your podcast, all that kind of.
you
Or
don't know anything.
stop. Or it was like, stop trying to make this podcast happen. Nobody's listening.
Yeah. And I'm just kind of like,
I like how you tried to drop some numbers on him. Also, I also like to call the segment Joe Giglio is the boomer on Facebook that actually watches videos on Facebook.
Yeah.
You're like the one person I know that actually watches videos on Facebook.
Yeah.
So this is Deion Sanders. He was on with Good Morning America. I don't know when this was. This doesn't seem recent, but here's the clip. Oh, wait a minute. This is why I don't like Facebook video.
Yeah.
I know where you're going. You know what? The only way I would consider is to coach my son. Not son. No. Sons. Okay. Yeah.
So that's not a no.
Well, I love Colorado. Now, I love my Buffaloes. I love everything that we're building. I love everything that we're doing. And I love Boulder, Colorado. I do immensely.
Okay.
This is what I've been telling you people. The guy it's the most relatable thing about him in the history of his life. He likes coaching his kids. And he just might have the ability to do it at the professional level. Like that's, I think some people might think of our Deion takes as whatever, but the truth of the matter is he did it the super hard way. Like, you know how hard it is to win at Jackson State?
Oh, yeah.
To go to Jackson State and their resources and have the success at Jackson State that he did and not fall on his face and fail. And then to go to Colorado. Yeah, the first year was tough. They were a good team this year.
So this is from ProFootballTalk.com, which this will be an important transition point when we move over to the Bill Belichick portion of the program. From ProFootballTalk.com, this is from Mike Florio. Amid reports of communications between Deion and the Cowboys, betting odds that Sanders is the favorite. It's now shifted to Kellen Moore. Ed Werder of WFAA says that Sanders would almost certainly accept the Dallas job, that those around Sanders are encouraging him to pursue it, and that Jones is enamored with the possibility. Florio continues. There will be issues to resolve beyond Deion's compensation. There's an $8 million buyout. Why NFL media continues to make these buyouts as though it's something that's going to get in the way of an NFL owner from making it happen is hilarious to me. And Deion will have to be okay with Jerry running the show, conducting 2 radio interviews per week and holding post-game media scrums that will attract attention away from Deion's press conferences or vice versa. That's a good point, actually, because somebody's got to be the star.
Yeah.
You can't have 2 stars.
3.
This ain't Tatooine. Okay. That's a good point. You do need 3.
The star.
Yes.
And then the stars.
That's a very good point. Now, that being said, where's I have this to get to
Belichick Watch.
Belichick Watch will never get away. I get a text from our friend Jonathan Jones because we've been texting back and forth, and all I got was a reaction to something, and I'm like, oh crap, what did I miss? Like, okay. So I fire up Twitter. I look at Jonathan Jones's Twitter account, and it reads, and there's a follow-up if you're watching on YouTube. New at CBS Sports, Bill Belichick does not have a signed contract at UNC, which is not uncommon in college, but it does introduce gray area as to how much, if any, of the $10 million buyout would be paid should he bolt to the NFL. Attaches the story. Now, Mike Lombardi, who is like the general manager of North Carolina, but I feel like his actual job title is to just get on Twitter and refute things that are being said about Bill Belichick, retweeted JJ and said, Bill is recruiting in D.C. today and Baltimore tomorrow. His focus is on North Carolina football, hiring staff members and developing the team. The NFL is not an option, so please stop making it one. Thank you. This was followed by Ed Werder of WFAA out in Dallas. I am told the offer sheet between Bill Belichick and North Carolina is binding, that Belichick is on a recruiting trip right now, and there is no plan for him to go back on his current agreement for any potential NFL offer. This tracks with what you were bringing up earlier in the week, and I feel like this is an opportunity for a lot more context. So there's the contract being signed, and then there's the terms of agreement.
Yeah, like if Carolina posts as a public school, they have to post all their information. And so what they're providing to people who make the records request for their contract is this. It's a 4-page document. It's called a proposal of contract terms and conditions. And that's where you see all the bonuses and the date and all those other good things. And you see his signature, and you see the UNC's representative's signature on the document. So all of the stuff that's been reported, yes, is legally binding. It's a signed contract, but it's not his capital K contract, if that makes any sense. You might not see a capital K contract until kickoff of the first game.
Sure.
So that's why I had said, and that's where you're talking about Belichick's agent. That's where you're talking about however many layers are involved here. Will his son be in the contract? I have been told his son will not, that his son is the coach in waiting, will not be written into the contract. I can straight up tell you that Bubba Cunningham has said that.
Okay.
That it will not be directly written into the contract that Stephen Belichick will replace Bill Belichick as the next Carolina head coach. What else there's to be negotiated, I don't know. I think the 4-page proposal of the terms and conditions it's actually fairly detailed if you think about it.
Sure.
Right down to the different bonuses that he's eligible for. But I would just look at this and say I don't know what I'm like everyone else. I want to see the final deal. I think Carolina's the same way.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
They want to see the deal too.
Yes.
They want to know what he's actually going to sign. So.
Well, I think that's part of the problem. Like I've had some people bring this up. I know you brought this up before we got started with the podcast. You know, Roy Williams coached like an entire year without a signed contract. Right?
Yeah.
But it's also like we understand that Roy Williams and Bill Belichick are not the same thing.
No.
You know, one can tell you that young Billy said in his first words, beat Duke. But I think we all understand Roy Williams freaking bleeds North Carolina. Not the same thing. There's also not the specter. Like Roy Williams went to Carolina not because he was getting shut out by the NBA. You see what I'm getting at?
Right.
Like the argument that I've always made is that Bill Belichick in North Carolina is in a lot of ways a marriage of convenience. You have a coach in Bill Belichick that seemed like he was not getting these guaranteed offers or back channel agreements that I will get to be the next coach of this team because of Rooney rules and everything else, right? Or just a straight up idea that, hey man, we're done with you. The Bill Belichick time is done. We're not going to have this, right? So that he used this leverage chip of North Carolina, like, well, fine, I'm gonna go to college if you don't want me. And Carolina being the brand that would make sense for Bill because everybody knows North Carolina gets to use Bill Belichick. I want to be clear about this. UNC gets to use Bill Belichick to announce to the rest of the college football world, hey, we're freaking serious about this because there's bigger picture stuff beyond the football field, like what happens next in college realignment. And if you're not taking football seriously, you might not get that opportunity, no matter how good your brand might be. So this is a big sign for everybody else. It like reminds me of when Coach K went after John Wall. Was he really going to get John Wall? Not really, but he had to let people know, hey, man, I am willing to do a one-and-done situation, okay? And the rest is history, all right? So there's a lot of things that are going on here. Belichick is going to coach at least 1 year at Carolina. But I do want people to, this might be rhetorical for some of you, but I do have 2 questions about Bill Belichick, the NFL, and why he continues to go back into the news cycle, or why this won't go away. Why is it constantly a thing? So why, these are the 2 questions. Why are NFL insiders bringing Belichick's status up all the time? His status, the contract, has it been signed? The $10 million buyout, June 1st. What about these NFL teams? He's had conversations with Tom Brady. Why does Bill's name not just go away in the news cycle? Why do NFL insiders, and it's not just one, okay? You can't make it well, Mike Florio's just doing this. There's multiple NFL insiders have brought this up. Florio, JJ, Tom Pelissero, all right? Ian Rappaport. I can keep on going. And then Mike Lombardi's got to go online and be like, rah, 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 rah. Okay? So ask yourself that question. Why do the insiders keep bringing Bill Belichick's name into the news cycle? And then who does it benefit? Who does it benefit to have that name constantly cycle through? All right? And in the case of Mike Lombardi, and part of the reason why this won't go away is because Bill Belichick's media availability is very limited. And I want to be clear about this. This is not me saying, well, you know, Bill, why won't he do local interviews? I don't care about that kind of stuff because my life moves on, whether Bill wants to do local interviews or not. I don't need Bill Belichick to do local interviews, is my point. We can talk about him any day. But anytime Bill does do media, what is it? It's not really about North Carolina.
I was going to say, you talk about Rob Lowe.
Right.
I don't even nary a sign of Carolina stuff. Like, why is he wearing suits, by the way? The guy's never worn a fucking suit in his life.
Great question.
And now all of a sudden he's like,
great question.
Like, what are we doing?
Great question.
I don't get it.
So when Bill Belichick is available on McAfee, it's general.
Put a hat on, buddy.
Nobody
get a Roy sticker.
He was wearing Alexander Julian. He's wearing Carolina Blue, Joe. Okay. So if he goes on with McAfee, it is in the capacity of talking about football.
Go to the set. Bring McAfee a jersey.
Right.
I mean, basic 101 shit here.
He does the Manning Cast. Why is he on the Manning Cast? To talk general football. The Let's Go podcast. What's he talking about? General football. Whatever CBS show he's doing. That's on Paramount or whatever.
I sent you the one of him and Cower.
Yes.
Okay.
No, actually, no, you didn't send me that one.
Okay.
You didn't send me that one. So he's doing these things not in an official, I am the head coach of North Carolina capacity.
Right.
Who's going to do the signing day press conference here in February? Is it going to be Bill or is it going to be Lombardi?
I would assume it would be Bill, but
I don't know.
Yeah.
So Lombardi seems to be the mouthpiece.
That's fine. We need a GM. I mean,
okay, cool. But you understand.
They're reinventing the wheel.
But sure. But if you understand, like if this is the news cycle, it's a little off for like how things usually go. So of course people are going to be fascinated by this. And of course, for the locals here, when it comes to Bill Belichick, and it's like, like, why do you keep talking about this? Well, why wouldn't you keep talking about this? We've never seen this before. It's fascinating. What do you not want to talk about it? It's interesting.
There's only one coach that has 6 Super Bowl rings.
It's him, and he's coaching that way. So of course we're going to talk about it. It's all kind of, and it's a little messy. I get all those things, but you know what? Like that Netflix craze for a while. I love mess. When we discuss matters of the ACC, like Carolina football, or earlier when we were talking about Carolina basketball and the NC State Wolfpack, it is brought to you by Keller Williams Commercial Real Estate. You can check them out online at trianglencommercial.com or call them directly at 919-616-8681. Commercial real estate is a very specific matter, meeting the needs for a very specific clientele. So if you're looking to open a business, expand warehouse space, any number of things, contact our friends at Keller Williams Commercial, the Donnelly team, trianglencommercial.com. Big thanks to our friends at Home Field. I did it, Joe. 4 for 4
whole week
on my Rob Lowe Home Fields.
Love it.
I got this hoodie on today, so let's freaking go. Check out OG20. Use the promo code OG24 to save 15% off your order. Again, that promo code is OG24, 15% off your order at homefieldapparel.com. Also, big thanks to our friends at Breeze Through. At Breeze Through, they've got great coffee with some of these late night games and everything else. It has been absolutely necessary to hit up our friends at Breeze Through. Gas is important, clean bathrooms, snacks, and of course, a beer cave. We're going to be at Breeze Through for a pregame.
Next Thursday. 5:00. I don't think we can call it that, but we'll be there at 5:00.
There is
a professional hockey game in the moments after we are done in their run up to it. So I got to check with WH.lawyer to make sure I'm phrasing that correctly, because we're not. We could also do the disclaimer at the end. We are not officially affiliated.
But then we could just call it totally not a hockey pregame show.
Totally not.
Totally not.
Not even
a hockey pregame show.
Billy Joel's going to be there. He's going to sing songs from an album that included the Downeaster Alexa, and we didn't start the fire.
Perfect. Joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline, he is the head coach of the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. Giglio's Deacs. Steve Forbes on the Heister Automotive hotline. Steve, how are you?
I'm good, fellas. How are y'all doing?
I am curious. I come back from a basketball game, having covered it or watched it, whatever, and I have a hard time shutting my brain off. Like, oh, what did I see? How am I going to talk about it? That kind of stuff. I got to imagine for a coach that after a game, what is the sleep cycle for you after a game?
According to my Whoop, which depresses me every morning when I wake up and refresh it, I'm always in the red after a basketball game. Now, the night before, I sleep really well, but after the game, my hamster wheel.
Yeah, man.
And I'm really concerned. Like, I had a lot of anxiety last night because I was going to be on the show.
Mm-hmm.
So I was, trying to prepare myself mentally for, the situations that I would be facing today from your questions.
Yeah, well, it's not like we see you in person at a tip-off, so we have no gags for you. So you don't have to worry about that.
It's all about the gifts.
He got bourbon last time.
I know he did get bourbon last time, but I think sleeping like a baby the night before makes sense. You're prepared. You've told the team exactly what you need. Like, it's up to them at that point. And it's after the game where I could see you rewinded it.
I mean, that's why we like to sell that to ourselves. But yeah, I mean, it's always been that way. I find it kind of strange. You think maybe you'd have anxiety before the game and you wouldn't be able to sleep. And then after the game, you just, well, it's over.
Yeah.
But it's just the exact opposite. I'm sure I'm not alone in that. I'm sure probably if you talk to most every coach, they'd probably be like, man, it's just really hard to go to sleep after a game.
So
but wait. Well, whose idea was the walking Deke on the jersey last night? Those were sweet.
Yeah.
I like to rock the walking Deke out on the road and recruiting. Full disclosure, I have nothing to do with equipment. I never have. It's just not in my world. Like, I know it's important. We have a equipment manager, Tyler Shore, and my assistant, Matt Woodley. They came up with those. Now, I will say I did notice the first time we wore them, I was like, wow, those are kind of cool. And Riley Skinner hit me up this morning and asked me if there's any way he could get a pair of those shorts. So I said, well, being that you're Riley Skinner, may have to make that happen.
Definitely make that
These
happen.
are moves that you could make. Yeah. I need a walking Deke. Your AD's got the quarter zip. That's the one that I need.
Yeah, you are a fan of that quarter zip.
I got a lot of stuff. I'll tell you what, when I come over there, instead of you bearing gifts, I need to bear some gifts this time.
There we go.
All right, we'll make
like
that work. We will make that work.
February. All right.
Yeah, we'll make that work. So I'm actually looking at the ACC slate, and I'm always this has been my running thesis when it comes to ACC basketball or college basketball in general. Where you are when you start things up in November versus coming out of the year. It almost feels like the timeline has to shift because of new pieces, guys coming in, guys coming out, all that kind of fun stuff. So, where do you feel you are?
Yeah.
With stacked ACC games. And again, you go to Clemson. There's no shame in losing at Clemson, but you've stacked these wins together since.
Joe, I really like where we're at. We played 10 games in November. And we only had 16 practices and we weren't shooting it well. And we were playing fast coming into November. We were shooting a lot of threes and we weren't shooting well. We weren't taking care of the ball. And so we needed some time to readjust some of the things that we were doing. And we needed the maturation of a couple more players, to get more playing time. Ty Johnson, Juke Harris, And so all those things just took a little more time than maybe what everybody wanted, And so, yeah, we had a great win over Michigan to start out, and then we didn't. We dropped the game to Florida and at Xavier, at A&M. Like you said, tough places, tough teams. And so since finals, the break, then we had this last week where we had a break. We've gotten a lot better offensively. We've been pretty solid defensively the whole year. And then I think just Ty and Juke taking the next step. And then we lost Omaha Blue in the first week of the season. We're getting him back this weekend. He's a prolific player. I think things are trending in the right direction, especially with Hunter playing at the level he's playing at, and Cam and Trey Spillers and Efton defending.
I was going to say, I'm watching the Stanford game last night, and you see a lot of the same parts from last year, but obviously Spillers is a little bit of a difference maker for you guys. How have the new parts kind of blended in? I know without Blue, it's hard to get a complete picture, but it does feel like Spillers has given you a little bit of a bigger kind of running mate to go with Salas.
Yeah, I mean, Trey's just different than Andrew, right? Andrew's a really good player. I mean, he's playing really great at Kentucky. Trey's just a little bit more – he's just a little bit more athletic. He's not as tall, probably a little bit better rebounder, but not as prolific of a shooter, stretch guy like Andrew was. But Trey could get to the basket, and he can block shots, and he's a little shorter, but he's just a really good player. He plays really hard. He's a great teammate. And, he was of all the new guys, he was the one that probably came in and was ready immediately. Omaha would have been, but he'd been hurt, and then he got better and then he got hurt, and then it just took Ty and Juke and Cosby, a little bit more time to kind of figure out not only just how we play and how we expect to play. And I tell the players all the time, guys, from the end of the season till September, it's about you, but from September to March, it's about us. Mm-hmm. And so it's about, they had to figure those things out, and it took some time, and nobody's got it all figured out, but they're doing a heck of a lot better.
So we do a bit on this podcast, and I know that you're a longtime sports fan. You've listened to plenty of sports talk radio. I'm sure you've called into Josh Graham's show in the past.
Religiously, of course.
Yes, I'm sure you've done that. So Joe and I thought we would reinvent podcasting by doing this voicemail thing. We call it the OG Sports Phone. Okay.
I like it.
And we even have a jingle for it. So we're going to play you this jingle.
919-444-2211. Call the OG Sports Phone and curse or don't.
Pretty catchy, right?
Big fan of that. Big
curse or don't.
Curse.
I'd probably curse, but I'd probably get in trouble. So
we got this call from a 704 number. They were watching the Carolina Cal game last night, and we're just going to present this to you. I'm curious your thoughts on this because we might as well go directly to a source who was in the room for when it happened.
I want to get your thoughts on something that I heard Corey Alexander say on the broadcast. They were doing a segment on Joe Lunardi's bracketology for the ACC. And we know how Joe Lunardi has framed the ACC in the past, but he has 5 ACC teams solidly in the field, no team lower than a 9 seed, which is Carolina and Pitt. And Corey wondered aloud, how is it that the last 3 years the ACC has had to endure one bid league talk when it's been criminally undervalued, but this year when the league is objectively the worst it's ever been, how do we have 5 teams solidly in the field? Did the summit of ACC coaches and Joe Lunardi back before the season started, did it work? Love to hear your thoughts on it.
So, Coach,
that's a lot to unpack there.
Did it work?
I think it was good to have him there and visit and give him our insight of our league, and he gave us a lot of historical background of his decision making. I think one of the things about us being historically bad, compared to what? Compared to the SEC? Well, so's the Big 10 and the Big 12. I mean, in the non-conference I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, we keep getting compared everybody to the ACC. Hey, credit to the SEC. Credit to them. You know, they did it. They were awesome. But there's still other leagues, and you know how we compare to those leagues is important too. And so, and then we have a whole season left to play. And this is why, to answer your question, I haven't looked at anything because those things, metrics don't really matter till March.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much left to be played. You'll just drive yourself insane looking, for me personally, looking at that. Now, Joe's situation, you know, I got on him last year, but it was more I felt like he had talked poorly about the talent in our league. And I just didn't. Now, we had a good visit about that, and he was great. Yeah. Now, as far as his views on who gets in a tournament, that's what he's paid to do.
Sure.
And if we got 5 in right now, great. I mean, you know, we like to have more, but we don't want less.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, for me in this program, I have just really tuned that out, and I've tried to get the players to tune it out. It's hard because kids grew up with social media. They don't know anything. They don't know anything different.
Right.
Their whole being revolves around it. You and I, we could shut it off. We didn't grow up with it, you know? And so, you know, it's just different, you know, how we look at things. But well, maybe,
I don't know about adults being able to shut it off. I actually think your players, or like my 16-year-old, has a better grip on what's going on social media wise than some adults.
That's probably true.
Who get a little Twitter brain, if you will, because you end up wanting to argue all the time and things like that. But I wanted to follow up on the whole idea of, I agree with you with the whole historically bad thing. And I get what you're saying is that once you get into the course of the season, you're focused on what you're doing and you want your kids to be focused on the game ahead and things like that. But when you do start to look at those metrics, and I know you're in, how can you not, you know, kind of get a general idea of where you're going to be? It is a storyline in the ACC this year where, after rightfully arguing on behalf of the conference, and I was included in this, that this year for the entirety of the ACC, it did not get off on the right foot in non-conference play, which then feeds into, once you do get into conference play, not exactly helping yourselves out, whereas the SEC is set. I mean, this happened with the Big 12 last year for different reasons. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'll just say it. They kind of cooked the net, in a way in the non-conference. Whereas I think with the SEC, we understand how strong everybody is right now and how they've beaten everybody. So they're going to be feeding each other good numbers. So from a coach's perspective, there is what you can control and just go out there and win. And then there's also the big picture of, you know, this does affect us in a way.
Oh, 1,000%. You know, I got asked that question a week ago, I think, on the ACC, you know, teleconference about, hey, look, the bottom line is this. You have to schedule right, which I feel like we did.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to win. Okay. You have to win. That's the remedy. You know, like people always used to ask me about, well, what kind of marketing do you got to do to get fans in the arena? I'll tell you the best marketing tool, win.
Yeah.
Win. Okay. And so, and not only win, but don't lose at home and don't lose money games at home. Okay. Those things kill you too. Those get cooked into the numbers. Right. And so, not pointing fingers. I mean, but every year those things hurt you. So you got to win. You got to win at home, and you got to win those neutral games. Look, we take the blame. Michigan, great win. Lost on a neutral to Florida. Beat Minnesota on a neutral, but they're not having a great year. Lost on the road at Xavier. Lost on the road at A&M.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't help the league like we were capable of helping, you know, and so we take responsibility for that. And you're right, Joe. Now, there's nothing you can do about it now. That's in the bank. And so you trudge forward, and, you know, and the hard part for somebody like our team who's pretty good is, like, analytically, we didn't blow out the quad 4 games.
Right.
I go to these meetings every year and I hear, well, the margin of victory does BS. It matters. And the efficiencies matter. See, my problem with analytics is we subscribe to HDI, which is a high level analytics group.
Okay.
Games go analytically final at some point, depending on the spread, and then they shut off the efficiencies. Does that make sense? And so the net, some of these other guys, they don't do that. So you're rewarded for continuing to beat down another team, which I just don't subscribe to. But we didn't do that. We didn't play well offensively. Defensively, we did against the teams like on our schedule that were those kind of games. So that's what it is.
That is so Dean Smith-esque in like a modern era, because Dean was famous for saying, we keep our own stats.
The way we keep stats.
We keep our own stats.
Dean might have kept his. Ours cost money. Okay. A lot of money.
He was
and so
Roy,
you guys are
what was he paying Roy Williams?
Like $10,000 a year.
I think Roy was going around selling those calendars on the weekend.
He was also keeping the per possession stats for him.
Yeah.
That's how he got his start.
He was way ahead of the game on that. Hey, Josh Graham must know we're talking because he's texting me right now on my computer.
Yeah,
he's got this thing wired.
Alarmed. It's got an alarm.
I wouldn't put it past him.
I just remembered that I was mad at you for losing to a Miller brother. So thank you for reminding me that you lost to Xavier. I'm sure you're really happy about it too.
Well, I mean, you've probably went in there and won a lot in your life. I mean,
yeah, right. Easy place to go to Cincinnati and piece of cake, right?
I had a complete meltdown. The first time in there, I was at Tennessee. We beat them, and they went to the Elite Eight. We won 30 games. It was a hell of a game. And it was a great game right before Christmas. Then I went back and played Chris Mack when I was at East Tennessee State, right? They're ranked top 10 in the country. We're up 21 in the second half. I mean, we are dolly-whopping these dudes. And it's Saturday, December's sold out. They go to the Alamo, which I would call the Alamo, the last year. They go to the 1-3-1. We play 1-3-1. We couldn't throw it in the ocean. Okay. Lost by 1. I mean, I was physically ill, right? And Chris Mack's like, oh, man, we didn't deserve to win. Yeah, I know. Okay. So we go to Detroit because, this is mid-major basketball. You're not going home. You're going to get on a bus, go play Detroit next. And I'm thinking we're mentally done. We won 15 games in a row after that. Had the longest winning streak in college basketball coming out of a debacle at Xavier.
Mm-hmm.
So where are you with this group? I feel like when we saw you last year in Raleigh, you had a little bit of a quiet confidence to you about what you had in the group that you had. And then I remember speaking to Josh Graham, you called him. I was in the car and it was right after you had lost in DC. And I thought to myself, man, I even said to you, man, sorry for making them my Deacs. And you're like, no, it's not your fault. We need all the fans we can get. We need all the help that we can get. So you absolved me of jinxing you there. But where kind of are you with this group? You have that Michigan win, which is good. I mean, you got to ride that, of course. We got to all get Michigan gear and start cheering for them. Yeah. But you have such a big stretch coming up here, and I'm sure that you could tell me a game at a time. But after going to see my guy Mike Young on Saturday, you get Carolina, Duke, and Louisville, Pitt in a row.
Big.
And I mean, just kind of where are you mentally with this group, and where are you mentally, with your program? Because I know a lot of us like you. A lot of us, you know this, and we're not the only ones. But you also know that here in year 5, you got to be there, man. You got to be in that dance.
Well, first of all, I'm not in year 5. I'm in year 4.
Okay,
and that's where fans they can have an opinion.
What am I miscounting?
No,
first one doesn't count.
I know where Steve's going. My favorite term, year 0.
Year 0
absolutely didn't count. Okay, it was in COVID.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you on that. I totally agree with you.
I mean, if you want to judge me on 5, you can, but I'm not being judged on 5.
Yeah.
And so if you look at the history of our program, there's guys that failed miserably way more than I ever did. They got way more years. And so I'm not worried about that. That's definitely not a concern of mine.
But
what I am concerned about is, the one thing that we haven't done is make the tournament. You're right. I mean, and our kids are focused, and our staff is focused on that, and they should be. And we do have that kind of team. We didn't start that way, Joe. We just didn't. We didn't play well. And so, but the time that we've had together in December playing and practicing really has helped us. And our offense has really come around tremendously. And again, it's the maturation of Ty Johnson and Juke, and getting Omaha back this weekend has really helped. And Hunter's been able to slide off the ball more than he did in November. And now he's scored, 20 or more, 5 straight games. He's averaging 21 a game in the league. His numbers are off the charts. And so I do like where we're at, but I agree with you. We're in a this is the meat of our schedule, right? We're coming right to it. We have a hard game at Virginia Tech. And then we got Carolina at home, Duke at home, on the road at Louisville, Pitt at home, and then there's other games. And then if you get through that, then you can't stumble because you didn't build any equity before that, right? And so that's why you kind of got to concentrate at it, one at a time. I know that sounds very Bull Durham or whatever, but it's just it is what it is. And but I appreciate you saying that because it's the truth.
Mm-hmm. And also we understand that things are changing in Winston-Salem. We'll close on this. I was over at I was at the ice rink there next to the Joel.
Never been in there.
No, never been in there. Never. No. Wait, have you ever been ice skating? They have open skate.
Listen, dude, I grew up in Iowa. I worked around a lot of ice, and that's the last place that I'm going to be. Okay, no.
So as I'm driving out, I noticed that I guess there's this big parcel of land they're turning into Deacs, I think is the name of it. Some new project. Are you familiar?
Yeah. Common Grounds or
the Common Grounds or whatever it is in between the Joels and
mixed use retail. Yeah.
Yes. So you talk about how the best way to get people in the building is to win. This is true. This is true. But you also got to make it an event these days. It is always interesting to me that you're winning basketball games, but you're also winning in the business of entertainment. And it is interesting to see how that's kind of bled over into what's being built up around Wake Forest. Like, people kind of dismiss Wake Forest a little bit, but y'all are building it up and modernizing in a way that a lot of public schools have not gotten to yet.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought. You see that a lot with the NBA arenas, right? Or the NFL, they build all these restaurants and condos around the venue, and that's what we're doing, and it's going to be incredible. I've seen the plans for it. It's basically going from the corner of Deacon Boulevard, where the courtyard is, all the way to the football stadium on the other side of the street from the Joel. And so it's going to be great. John Curry asked me if I was going to buy a condo over there. I said, well, we'll see. It's shorter to walk to the Joel, but it's longer to get to work. Since when we're on campus. But that's like you said, a lot of schools. I saw Notre Dame did that a while back. Around their school. We stay in that area. It's nice. So
State's getting ready to do that. Much to football fans' chagrin with tailgating spots, but they're going to get some decks and some retail spaces and everything else. So,
but Joe, you're right. It's all about entertainment, and that would be the other thing I would have said when the best marketing tool is winning. But it's also to have a team that people enjoy to watch.
Yes,
and have a style of play that people want to see. And so those things kind of all go hand in hand, and then have players that they can, relate to, and that's all important.
Which is getting harder to do. I mean, heck, I'm watching State last night. I'm like, oh, that's right. That's where Jordan Shutt ended up. I remember watching him last year.
Yeah.
I can't keep track anymore.
It's hard for the fans. And I really try to talk about that a lot with our fans. It's like, look, it's not what it was 10 years ago. I get it. So come out and enjoy these guys for the year that we have them, because we may not have them next year. I don't know. I'd love for them to all come back, but it's just not the way it is. And so, like when we had Alondis and Jake and Ty Appleby, come watch them. Come watch Hunter. Cam's one of the only guys in the league that's been here 4 years.
Jeez, that's right.
He's one of very few. I don't know the number, but it ain't big.
What's funny about Cam too is he's also one of those. We're so used to players, jumping around. Then you see Cam, and I'm like, he's still here.
I know.
And then you have that reaction, like, wait, he's still here.
It's good to be on that side of it, because I can't tell how many times I said, how many more years is Baycoat going to play? Or I saw DJ Burns so much in my sleep because I played against him in Winthrop. Right? I'm like, can this guy please graduate and
just
leave?
go, just be gone, please.
I mean, so I get it. I'm just glad to finally have one. Everybody's like, God, that guy's back.
He's back. Oh man, yeah. Steve Forbes, Wake Forest.
Let's give him a little plug.
Yeah,
he's got a radio show tonight from the Playground Golf and Sports Bar, 7:00. You're gonna have Jake Dickert there, your new colleague, new football coach.
Hey.
I'm sure you gave him the speech. Hey man, all you gotta do is beat State, and your
You're
people
good.
will be happy.
You're good.
I think he's got to beat more teams than that, probably.
Man,
that
was a big one.
you know this. This is crazy, and this is a credit to Mike Muse on my staff and Stan Cotton. We literally have between 150 and 200 people on our radio show every week. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Not bad. You come work on the podcast. Well, we can use that.
They might not want to come see me over there. But with having head coach Jake Dickert tonight, we're going to bust it out tonight. Now, they've got these, these hitting tunnels for golf. It's crazy. Those simulator things.
Mm-hmm.
They'll come and walking in with their golf clubs. They're out there hitting golf clubs. We got a lot going on at this show, buddy. You need to come over sometime. I'll give away some gifts for that.
Yeah, golf. They have an angle on that. They should look into that sort of thing.
Hey, golf and alcohol, that's a pretty good deal right there, bud.
Hey, is he playing on the 4th or the 5th? Oh, hold on a second. Let me pull up. Let me put KenPom here again. When are you playing in February? Nah, man, you're in Stanford. That's a bummer. I was gonna say we got an event in Garner. You should come by. We got simulators and beer. Sounds like it's right up your alley.
Well, I haven't got on the simulator because I'm afraid I would probably hurt it. But some of my players have gone back there and smacked it around pretty good. But, we'll be playing on the Pacific Ocean in the Atlantic Coast Conference.
That's right. You got your West Coast road trips, Stanford and Cal. Get ready.
And we go to Syracuse, Miami, SMU, Cal, and Stanford this year.
All right. I know we keep saying we're going to let you go, but now I have one last question for real. Since you're doing all this travel and you're taking serious travel, what's the streaming show that you're watching on these plane trips?
Woo! I'm just waiting for the end of The Agency to finish.
Okay.
I watched. Is it Disclaimer? It's on Apple.
I think that's No, what was it? Is it Severance? Isn't that one that people are really about?
That's my wife. I haven't watched that.
Okay.
It's like Kate Blanchett's in this one.
Oh yeah.
Disclaimer. You got it.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, it's decent. Historically, I'm pretty into these subtitled foreign movies. So I've watched a few of those. Number 24. It's a Norwegian World War II movie.
Okay.
Really good. Subtitled.
Okay.
That's about it right now. I mean, when you go see Mike up there at Blacksburg, it's just a short little drive. I can't get a lot into it.
Can't do much there. And no subtitles, no Squid Game 2? I haven't watched that.
My family, I can't get into that. I just can't do that.
First season was pretty
I don't do Walking Dead and I don't do The Hobbit or whatever they call that, Lord of the Rings. I did Game of Thrones. I did enjoy that one, but they had to basically force me to watch it. And then I kind of got sucked in, and then they were mad because I watched it all at one time, and they were like, we had to wait 10 years to watch this. Sorry.
You know what? You do it when you can do it. All right, Steve, we appreciate the time as always. We will talk to you later. We'll see you because you said you have gifts for us, so we're excited about that.
Oh, I'll come bearing gifts this time.
Perfect. Thanks, Steve.
All right, guys. Thanks.
I guess it's confirmed. Steve Forbes into Dragons. And some other things that you might watch on Game of Thrones. Big thanks to our guy, Matt Davis. State Farm. Check him out. 919-779-8277. You can go online to insuregarner.com or theoginsurance.com. You can save on your home and auto. Speaking of homes, you might be coming out of the holiday break. You've entertained, you've acquired more stuff, and you're realizing, I don't have anywhere to put my collection of defunct Sony audio products. I need an entire room for this. Well, you might need new construction. That's where Hometown Realty comes into play. Check them out online at myhtr.com. And when you buy, you sell, you close, you contact our friends at Whitaker and Hamer. You need to make sure that you are legally sound with calling something totally not a hockey pregame show.
Mm-hmm.
Well, contact our lawyers, our guys at Whitaker and Hamer. WH.lawyer is the website. Attorneys and counselors at law. So we appreciate them for being a corporate champion. All right, let's go to the YouTube comments from Davis. NC State shit is back. We got this for the mailbag. We'll address it in the mailbag. From Kyle, regardless of the last 15 seconds in the NC State game, State should not have been in that situation. It's probably the best way to put that. So let's see. From Ken, odds on Bill dipping and Freddie ending up with the reins. Bill ain't dipping in year one, man. He's not dipping in year one. He's going to coach year one. As hard as some people might not believe that because of all the NFL news cycle stuff, he's going to coach in year one. From Justin, potential to compete for a division title has been said so many times in recent history. This is in relation to our conversation with Kyle Bailey. Look, when it's the NFC South, it's always in play. It does not matter how bad the Panthers might have been or have been. The NFC South is always in play. From Paul, hell yes. Love that my call is getting played for the ACC's White Knight, Steve Forbes. I thought I'd mix it up, you know? Like, I could ask Steve that question. It was on my list of things to talk about, but I'm like, you know what? Let's incorporate the sports phone and see if we can get the jingle stuck in Forbes' head. Hopefully it worked out that way. So let's see. What else we got here in the what is this? Let's see. Little myopic Giglio? That must have been a reference to something from the
I think when I said all he has to do is beat State.
Oh yeah, that's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. From RX, the grounds. Take that, Virginia.
That's right. Taking back our verbiage.
Let's see. From Ramar, if you're betting on a midweek college basketball game in January, it's probably time to call the number and not the OG Sports phone. Do I need to play the disclaimer? No. We'll play the disclaimer. We'll play the disclaimer tomorrow. Anyway, big thanks to Steve Forbes for joining us. Big thanks to you for watching. We'll have an OG mailbag tomorrow. If you want the full OG mailbag, just go to ogtrianglemedia.com. You can become an OG fan subscriber. We got an ACC panic room in the feed right now with me and Lauren Brownlow talking about yesterday's games with NC State, North Carolina. Little Cooper Flag show where we are with that and everything else. And again, the mailbag will hit that inbox. The full one will hit that inbox tomorrow. So go check it out at ogtrianglemedia.com. We're going to go drug up Giglio so he's functional tomorrow. What do we need? We need Benadryl. We need NyQuil. We need that Robitussin DM. You coming in on that Tussin tomorrow?
I mean, I hit the NyQuil last night. It's my first alcohol in 2025, so I felt good.
Good for you. Good for you. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up. We will see you tomorrow.